Good day. I wasn't going to do a segment today, but as you can see, we have torrential rain and huge hailstones. Can you see in their garden down there? The hail? I mean, that hail is bigger than a pea. I've never seen hail that big before. Yeah, their swimming pool is going to fill up. We did have a lot of rain yesterday, but this is much more than yesterday. You can see it's literally just tipping it down. Lightning. Wow. Yeah, so we had lots of rain yesterday. Oh, it's beginning to ease off a bit. But this is much more. Much more. And the humidity, of course, is rising at a phenomenal rate. Anyway, I'll let you know tomorrow how long this lasts, because I will be at the plot tomorrow. Bye. Good day. It's an early morning visit to the plot today. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. We had that amazing amount of rain yesterday and really rather a fabulous thunderstorm as well. And yeah, the streets have certainly been both washed clean and debris being deposited at the bottom of roads and things. So it's looking, the roads are looking clean and a mess at the same time, which is sort of a bit similar to here actually. I've walked this way around and come up this path down here to the shed, so I haven't looked at anything yet apart from that rather spectacular poppy that I can see in the middle of the frame there. But yeah, I think we're going to do a plot tour today. In fact, I don't think we are going to do a plot tour, and it's going to be a bit of a warts and all, so we'll have a look all the way around and see how things are doing. Some things are doing really well and I've really kept on top of, and other things have been either left for wildlife or got a bit away from me. But hey, you know, that's life. There is actually a plane going over at the moment and you can hardly hear it. I think it's the British Airways. Can you hear that? It's directly over us now, and it really is amazingly quiet. Anyway, let's stop talking about planes, though that is a bit difficult being here as we're on the takeoff path from Heathrow. But let's get to the corner of the plot and start the plot tour. I think it's fair to say that this lavender is going to be spectacular this year. And the shape of it, I'm not sure if you can see, but it really is rather gloriously sort of urchin shaped. Yeah. The front here is looking sort of rather shabby. I'm not sure if we are going to be moving this year. I'm not going to be able to sort this area out because I just don't think there's going to be enough time. So I might just put those rhubarb in at some point that are in the pots. But you might remember that this cardoon is normally enormous by this time of year. And yeah, it's much smaller than usual. Mainly because it got hit really badly by the cold weather that we had over the winter. Really quite badly. And it even succumbed to basically going to mush, you know, being frozen and going to mush. So it's coming back, but it's going to take its time. One thing that is doing well down here, I'm not sure if we can see any, but this is one of our ponds down here, and we do have a host of frogs in there. That's been filled up by the rain that we've had, which is great. Obviously rain is better for filling up ponds than the tap water. The poppies are looking great, as you may have seen in last week's A Week at the Plot. And yeah, but look at that bee in there, just loving it, loving it. Oh, it's saying yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely. Various different colours of poppies. We've got these rather pale ones here, and then we've still got a ladybird one there with the dots in the centre. The beetroot are beginning to grow. Oh look, damselfly, can you see? Look at that, what a beauty. I think that's a green one. Wow, I've not seen one around here. Our turnips are all, or have all, gone to seed. This is some of them in here. That's another one over there, and I think we'll be harvesting those at the end of the week. The broad beans that we've got are incredible. Yeah, fattening up nicely. Started harvesting these. Let's have a look at that one. Yeah, they've still got some growth to do in them, but they're doing really well. And this one here, if you watch A Week at the Plot regularly, you'll know that I've actually covered this one up because I want to save seed from this plant. It seemed to me to be the best plant with the most bean pods on it, and the largest and fattest bean pods on it. So I've covered that up so that I don't accidentally harvest from it to eat when I want to harvest from it for seed. And we do, even though these are autumn sown, we do have black fly, but I have to say, I think the rain we had yesterday has really battered these and knocked quite a lot of those black fly off, which is great. Beans. Now, which are these? These are dwarf beans here. I can't remember whether they're Venice or Rockencore. I've got a feeling these are Rockencore, and they are virtually all up, I think we can see. And then coming over here, I think all the way down here is a row of Venice, which are bush beans, like the Rockencore is. But you can see that I'm sure that's Rockencore, and I think it's germinated quicker than the Venice. There is one bean here that has germinated. Oh, there's another one there, look. Yeah. Right. The frames, I am rather enjoying them, even though they are a bit Heath Robinson and all higgledy-piggledy and different sizes. I've got used to that now. I'm enjoying the artistic aesthetic of those. Then at the bottom here, this first batch is Shaz's Scarlet Emperor runner beans, ones that Shaz from the Kingstone 8 sent us. They've germinated well and are doing fine. I think these are actually, no, these are actually our own save seed from ones that Shaz sent us ages ago. So yeah, they carry on. This next batch here is Madeira Maroon. Again, they seem to be germinating well, though a bit slower in growth than the others. And then over here we have Golden Gate, and you can see the tendrils reaching up to the bamboo. Well, I mean, the tendrils aren't, well, they're actually spinning around the bamboo over there, if you can see that in the sun. They're not reaching up to the bamboo. What happens is they grow, and then as they get blown in the wind, when they feel a bamboo, like, come around this way, this one you can see is touching the bamboo. When they feel the bamboo, they know they've got something to climb up, and that's when they start spiraling round. And they will otherwise they'll sort of blow in the wind until they can find something to spiral up. And I think they're doing quite well, though. Did I just see, we had so much hail yesterday. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see this tip here, but that's broken off, and that's either slug damage or that's damage from hail, I think. We don't seem to have too much slug damage, even though we had all that rain. Famous last words, of course. I mean, this side, you know, they're really going for it. Yeah. Is that... yeah, I think that, can you see there's a kink there? Oh. There was a kink, there is a kink. Can you see it just here? There, I think that's been battered and kinked, but that will grow back. Then in here we've got a mix of brassicas. Most of our Portuguese cabbage is now going to seed. It's beginning to flower. Having said that, that one's not. We're still harvesting from these two. But if we come over here, yeah, that one hasn't either. But you can see this one is beginning to flower. That one over there is going to seed. And that's fine, that's fine. These have given us okay harvests. I do think that the Portuguese cabbage, because it has a softer and more hollow stem than other brassicas, I'm not sure it will be a good thing to grow once we get to Wales, because of all the brassicas that we had, I did notice that the Portuguese cabbage seemed to succumb in frosts. The stem, with the cold winter that we had, the stem really froze through, and then when it defrosted it just went to mush. But yeah, this bed needs a tidy up. I did actually take out some weeds the other day. We've still got some pansy in here that needs to come out now because it's done its business, and poppies growing. Right, these end beds, I planted, or I sowed wildflower seeds in these, but it hasn't really taken. So I might utilise these end beds for something else. Right, let me come over here and then... you see that big slug? Right, this bed, let me stand over here. We uncovered the tarp from this bed the other day, this side of the bed, mainly because I wanted to ensure that any slugs sort of vanished from it before we did planting of tomatoes into it. This side we've got courgettes, which you can see have been really splattered by mud with that heavy rain that we had. I mean, they're completely covered, though hopefully you can also see that courgettes are beginning to develop on all of them. In fact, that one's got a lot of flowers, courgettes there. yeah, so we will see how these do. So we've got 5 courgettes, and these are basically a yellow courgette. And then up here we've got cucumbers. Most of these went in about a month ago, and their growth has been really pretty slow, which is disappointing. But hopefully with the heat we're now getting, they'll start getting away. We did have 2 cucumbers that were eaten by slugs, which I'm sure were under the cover that was here. So these are spares that we kept, and they went in just a few days ago. I'm not sure if you can see that slug there, quite a biggie. And then moving on, our blueberries. This blueberry, which is Duke, is absolutely covered and doing really, really well. This blueberry here, there's 2. This is another self-fertile variety, but I can't remember what this is. I'll try and find it. But you can see it's really yellow and it's not looking good. I'm not quite sure why it's looking so bad when that one is looking fine, and this one here is looking okay. Some of the fruit are beginning to ripen, you can see. I'm not sure why this one or these 2 are looking so sorry for themselves. But you know, I will go to the RHS and see if I can find anything there about blueberries that are yellowing. Yeah. And oh, look at the can you see the white roses? They're gorgeous. Yeah. And then if I turn around here, our bench, you'll be able to see just how much rain we had. That is about an inch deep. That's been broken off because of, I assume, because of the hail. Another one there. But yeah, look at all that water. When we've finished, I'll be emptying these out. These 2 were ones which I thought were goners because they had been eaten in the polytunnel by a slug or a snail. But this one started growing back, and there's a bit of growth on this one, so maybe they'll be okay. Got leeks to go in there. They need to be kept wet, so they're quite happy. I've got one Chadwick cherry there. I'll be taking that out a bit later and potting it up, and that will give me a bit more room in these trays. I'm eating a few strawberries. These are the strawberry plants that were on the sharing bench last year, and I potted them up individually because I'd expected we'd have been moving by now. So yeah, I keep munching on them when they ripen. 2 verbascum, or 3 verbascum rather, here. This is a piece of wood that was holding down the bit of black cover on the bed behind me. But yeah, 3 verbascum again to take to our next home. And I think that's a kiwi, which again is to take to the next home, and a hazel there. So yeah, various things. This Spanish cotton lavender is about to come out. There's a few grasses growing through it which I'll take off so they don't go to seed, but you might be able to see what we've also got coming through is some lavenders in here, because there's 2 types of lavender. There's this Spanish lavender, cotton lavender, and normal lavender in there, so that will look lovely. What's not looking particularly lovely at the moment is the flower border bed, or the wildflower border bed. Needs a lot of work, but that's going to have to wait because it's not a priority. But I would like to try and get on top of that. These are sort of some of the areas that really got away from me this year. With everything else going on in life, it just didn't come to pass that I kept on top of this bed. This bed are carrots and lettuce, as you can see. The carrots germinated pretty well, though they have been largely eaten by slugs and snails, so that's been disappointing. But what hasn't been eaten by slugs and snails is these lettuce. These are giving us about 2 lettuce worth of lettuce a day at the moment. What I'm doing is I'm just going in, let's see here, there's an outside leaf, taking the outside leaf off, and then the rest of the plant can grow. And as we have quite a few, I can, use maybe 3 or 4 plants to harvest from on a daily basis, so that all works well. Just hang on 1 second. Just had a quick chat with a plot neighbour. They were coming up our path because of the rain that we had yesterday. Many of the plants and some of the grasses are overhanging the path, so they're ready to go to school because they're in admin at a school, so they didn't want their trousers to get wet, so we're coming up our path, which is clearer. So yeah, but yeah, these lettuce have just done phenomenally this year, which is absolutely great, despite things like this. I find it astonishing actually, because in harvesting these, I have not found a single slug or snail, and I've been harvesting these now for 3 weeks or so. So I very often I'm harvesting something and I'll see slugs or snails underneath, but this time I just haven't seen any yet. I mean, this one down here is the first that I've seen anywhere near. I mean, obviously, as I say, there have been slugs and snails because they've eaten the carrot seedlings, but maybe they don't like this type of lettuce. I'm still not quite sure which lettuce this is, but it's certainly one to keep. This is our own save seed as well, so really happy with the save seed. This bed over here, this had our perennial weed compost put on it earlier in the year, and that's going to have tomatoes in it, so it's still covered up, so when we do the tomatoes we'll be taking the cardboard off. I had another discussion yesterday with somebody else who was suggesting that they might plant through cardboard, and I said, you know what, other people like Vivi have good success with that, but I just don't. I find that too many slugs and snails harbour under our cardboard. Funny how things are different from plot to plot and site to site. This area I cut back last week, this path, it's been left to grow all over the winter because it was overhung by the large brassica that you can see I've cut back. So you can see the stem in the middle there, and that needs a strim, so that hasn't been strimmed yet, but when I do my next strim on the plot, this is now going to be an area to be strimmed. But yeah, that had grass growing on it and also lots of frogs in it for about 6 months. Again, this lavender is just a glorious shape, and I think is going to be a glorious flower as well, which will be lovely. Getting into the more shady area of the plot now. I've got our gooseberries that are ready to harvest. I've got those covered over there, and we've got some blackcurrants coming on these, and these are the young gooseberries, but they've been a bit flattened, I think, by, I would have thought, pigeons, but also the rain maybe. The cultivated blackberry is doing well. I'm not sure if you can see that in this light, but yeah, they're shaping up really nicely, and hopefully we'll have a good harvest. Last year we went away, and you may remember that this just dried up completely. So I'm hoping with all the rain that we've had, it will just carry on doing okay. What's also doing okay is these chicory. They are going to, I mean, this is the largest chicory I've ever had on the plot. They have really, I mean, if I come down here, you can see how much leaf at the bottom there is. And this area has really sort of looked a bit shabby, as in the plants have looked a bit worse for wear, but certainly they're really doing well. Maybe next week they'll be in flower. And I can see here, you see there in the shade better maybe, a ladybird larvae, or another one over there. I did want to do an early morning tour before it got too bright, but maybe it's pretty bright anyway. This bed is going to be another one, I think, for tomatoes. And then here, if I try and get out the shadow, these are our above ground washing up bowl pond and below ground washing up bowl pond, and both of them have got really a thriving load of frogs in it. And a shield bug there. Somebody in Florida was talking about shield bugs the other day, and saying that I should be taking them off, and I think they seem to do an awful lot more damage in the US than they do in the UK. Famous last words maybe, but it does seem to be the case for me over here. I don't know, we'll have to look that up. Turnips, these are I think doing okay. They seem to be growing okay, but I'm not sure if they're, oh no, they are beginning to bulk out. I'm not sure if you can see in there, they are beginning to bulk out. We've also got a few lettuce in here which have self-seeded. You can see the red ones, and I think it's time to take those out because they're not going to do well amidst this bed of turnips. So yeah, let's come this way. These are our joster berries, and hopefully you can see, oh, the light is really not great for this tour, is it? Sorry about that. The berries, they're beginning to form. They're a cross between a blackcurrant and two types of gooseberry, and I really think they're worth growing if you can find them. And then this area has really been left to go, but that's because we have a family of hedgehogs living underneath this ceanothus. What I'm trying to do is sort of cut back around here and just let that bit be, because, you know, I'm just joyous that I've got hedgehogs on site, so I want to try and keep them, obviously. We've also got the grass snake, but that doesn't really venture down this far. Cuttings bench, roses, look at that rose. We took cuttings from a rose a few years ago, and these are ones that are still in pots because I'd expected we would have moved by now, but you know, we haven't, so there we are. More cuttings of what are these, black currants, and there's also a grape at the back that I was given. A few flowering plants, but again, all that water needs to come out. These are our oaks, or some of the oaks. There's another one here that we took out. I'll link back to that in a week at the plot. But yeah, look at that. Honestly, this area is an area that really I didn't get on top of this year, but I have been cutting it back to hopefully reduce the amount of seeds that will mature, and I've also cut back this area as well. This was a bed that I was leaving to go for wildflowers, but again, grasses really took hold this year, as I think they have done on many sites. Potatoes, these all seem okay. We'll be harvesting those, I think, later this week. And then coming over to this bed, which has got our hawthorn cuttings in them. Disappointingly, many of them in the heat have started dying back. So I'm hoping that we will have some. I mean, we do, you know, here there's growth. I'm not sure if you can see that. Over here there's growth. But yeah, I thought we were going to get quite a few. Maybe we'll end up just with one or two. But you know what? If we end up with one, I'll be happy. This is a hawthorn that is red, and it was a tree in our next door neighbour's garden, and they cut it completely down earlier this year, which was such a shame because it was such a glorious tree. And I just thought I'd take some cuttings. So I took about 30, and I do know that this particular type of hawthorn is very difficult to take cuttings from, and certainly that seems to have proven the case so far. More chicory. Let's go round the other way. I was talking rather fantastic feverfew. I was talking the other day or a few weeks ago about a verbascum and the mullein caterpillar. And I did say that though they can decimate a plant, usually the flower spike continues. Well, in this case, it hasn't. This verbascum has been completely mullered by mullein caterpillars, which I think have largely gone now. So they're most probably in a cocoon somewhere. They can live in the cocoon or survive in the cocoon for several years before actually turning into the mullein moth. But yeah, we must have had about 20 on this particular one, and yeah, you can see it's a bit mullered. Mullering mullein caterpillars. That one over there is just about getting by. This one should flower. These are okay. Yeah, another bed that I began tidying, taking corn salad out of the other day, and I don't know, we may use this or I may just cover it up depending upon how the house sale goes. Then moving into the poly, we've got various lettuce here which we're harvesting from now, here and here. This lettuce is going to seed purposefully, as is the Mizuna. And we've got coriander in here, and that's sort of about it. Our garlic harvest, which is fine, but you will have noticed if you watched last week's A Week at the Plot, we got about 20, we got white rot on about 25% of our garlic harvest. Growing much less than we normally do, because if we're moving house, I don't want to transport bulbs of garlic. You know, there's no necessity to. Borlotti beans that I sowed the other day for the gate sale, I hope that they will come on and grow. And these are ones that I sowed because we had some left for myself or ourselves. So yeah, bit of a bench tidy needed there. And then Around here, again, look at that water. These are the gooseberries that we got from Lidl earlier this year, these 2 pots. These pots here, this is a hazel that I found in the ground, so I've repotted that. But these here are the josterberries that we took cuttings from earlier in the year. So they have done, they are doing really well, so I'm pleased about that. Various pots with things in them, but yeah, boy, do I need to tip water out. And then around here is again a bit of a overgrown mess. That's the fabric, the cover, the ground cover that I need to fold up. I was going to fold it up the other day, and I came up here to fold it up to find the grass snake bathing there in the sun. So I just left it and went down the path this way and let the grass snake be. So I think I'll be back later today to tidy that up, well, to fold it up and put it away. So yeah, oh, and the apple. The apple is actually, we seem to have very few flowers on it this year, but I have to say the apples seem to be doing quite well. I don't think we've reached the June drop yet, when the tree determines how many apples it's going to carry on feeding and shuts off feeding the rest and they fall to the ground. Because the apple tree decides how many it's going to take to maturity, basically, and drop the ones it doesn't want off. But yeah, the tree itself looks okay. It was looking a bit the worse for wear earlier in the year, maybe again because of the cold winter we had. So there we are, a very full, overgrown, productive, messy, wildlife friendly plot. Before I pop in the shed, I just thought we'd have a look at this verbascum, which is pretty magnificent. It was pretty upright yesterday though. It was sort of like up here, and that rain seems to have made it bow over and sort of keel over this way. But you can see here the flower spike is coming, and there's a little bee there that must have taken refuge in the rain yesterday, or just deposited itself. Hopefully when the sun hits it, it'll dry off and be okay. But yeah, I'm hoping that that will straighten up, because it really is, I think, one of the biggest verbascums I've seen on the site here, and it's been quite magnificent. And even though it had a couple of mullein caterpillars on it, they seem to eat on it and then move on swiftly, so very little damage. Oh, and let's just have a look at that poppy. It really does feel a game of two halves, the plot this year. It feels a game of joy and balance, and it also feels a game of struggle and imbalance. The imbalance with the amount of grasses that we have growing. And you know, the thing with having grasses growing is, the more you can't keep on top of them or don't keep on top of them, the more likely they are to go to seed, to mature to seed and self-seed for future years. So it's good to try and get on top of them when you can. I think some of the plants that we've got growing just are quite slow. Like the tomatoes in the pots, you know, they really feel as though they're taking their time to grow to me. They've been potted on now for over 2 weeks, and I'd expect them to be at least a foot high now, and they're nowhere near that. you know. And I know that throughout May we had cool weather, you know, it was a cooler May than usual, colder May actually than usual. The beginning of June, the nights were still pretty cool where we are. That's all heated up now, and the average temperature is sort of over 12 degrees at night constantly now. But you know, that colder weather I think has really stunted the growth of some things. The cucumbers that we put in the ground over a month ago, can't quite understand, other than the cooler weather, why they haven't got going. The courgettes, yeah, they seem to be growing, but I'd expect them again to be a bit bigger than they are. Yet you look at the broad beans, and the broad beans have done magnificently this year. The best broad beans I think we have ever grown on this site, on this plot. So yeah, it does seem a bit odd this year. And you know, for me mentally, it also seems pretty odd, because I hadn't expected we were going to have a full growing year. This time last year, I thought, shall I keep the plot on, because we most probably won't have a full growing year next year. But I decided to keep the plot on because I thought we'd be moving maybe early summer, midsummer, something like that. And it's clear now that we, you know, should we sell the house, we're most probably not going to be moving till September or even later, which for me is a full growing year, because as you know, I grow October to September. That's my growing year. Putting in broad beans and garlic and you know, a few other things in those winter months, in the sort of October, November. That's the start of my growing year. I know it's very different for other people, but that's how Dad did it, and that's how I think about it. So yeah, I hadn't expected to be so full on with the plot, because I thought we would be sort of moving on. And of course, you know, we got people viewing the house, there's lots of other things going on in life as well that, you know, you don't always see on camera. And yeah, it's been a challenge this year, but I'm still enjoying it. I really am. I think, should our house not sell, and I've mooted this to the committee, I will step back from being chair next year, which again for us is from October onwards. We have an AGM in October, and at that AGM, new committee members are voted on. Old ones, you know, come off in rotation, and they can restand if they wish. But I think if we do get to that stage, and it's clear that we're going into another pretty significant part of a new growing year here, I am going to not be chair next year. I think it's time for somebody else to take on that responsibility and the work, because it is a lot of work. You know, I get a lot of joy out of it, but it is a lot of work, and there are challenges that go with it. We have a great community here, but there's always sort of like niggles and things that crop up, and you know, sometimes long-standing disagreements between people of decades ago, and you know, things like that. So yeah, it's definitely time for me not to be chair. I'll do the rest of this year, should we be here, and I will be at the AGM. But I think from that point I'll either step down from the committee, or if I stay on the committee, which I'd need to be voted back onto the committee, I would not put myself forward as chair. I think that would be sensible. I don't know how we got into that. How did I get into that? I don't know. It's something that's come up in conversation with various committee members over the past few weeks, maybe, you know, month or so. So there we are. I shared it with you completely openly. And you know what, that is what you get from me and from some of our other you know, YouTubers. There are other YouTubers who get other people to do their plots for them, and they, you know, oh, look what I've done and things like that. But no, you can clearly see what I haven't done here in this June plot tour. But there we are. Anyway, I am going to move those lettuce now, and I'm going to leave it here for this week's a week at the plot, I think. So I think I'll do this in segments. I thought it would be a quicker plot tour than it's turned out to be, so I think it's sensible that I just sort of wrap up a week at the plot with this plot tour. So we had the thunder and lightning and rain and hail yesterday, and we got plot tour today, and I'll share that on Planet Vegetaria throughout this week. And I will see you for another upload of a week at the plot on YouTube in a week's time. And if you're on Planet Vegetaria, I'll be seeing you for segments as we go through next week, and popping up also maybe a bit exclusively over the coming days. A little interruption there as another tenant was going by and said hello and started up a conversation. They didn't realise I was filming, that's why. They thought I was just enjoying the view out from the polytunnel and taking the weight off my feet. So there we are. But yes, whatever you are doing in your growing spaces, your gardens, your allotments, your balconies, whatever, I hope it's doing well. Any comments that you've got or questions, please do leave them down below, and I will see you for another upload on YouTube in a week's time, and I'll see you on Planet Vegetaria with various things through the coming days. Happy growing. Bye.